W5FC. GeekNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KF5PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? The directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 3747. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, space exploration and space history, Was Up, topic and constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you will do the check-in honors, please.
Thank you, Ms. Billy, and thank you for doing the net this evening. This is KE5ICX. My name's Tom. I'll be your alternate net control this evening. I will take low-power, short-time check-ins. If you're one of those, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low-power or short-time.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen. Short time.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus for Northeast Dallas, low power.
Okay, well, we got two out of that. N5WOI, that would be William and Alan, and W5GUS, that's Gus in Northeast Dallas. He's low power, and William's short time. Let me go ahead and take regular check-ins at this point. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now. That would be general check-ins. Please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
November 5 Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa in Dallas.
Kilo India 5, Golf Romeo Golf, Esther in Dallas.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson.
Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich, and Rockwall, AG5 PM.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Earl in Dallas.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz in Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo, Philip from Crandall.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Dallas, Farmers Branch.
Okay, I had to do some catch-up here, but let me get everybody who I got. There may be a double or two in there, I'm not sure. N5WOI, William and Alan. Oh, wait, I got you on the first round, and I got Gus. N5BB, Bill in Irving. I got KI5GRH, that's Melissa in Dallas, and I got KI5GRG. That would be Esther in Dallas. KG5P, Mike over in Richardson. Mike, your audio is really, really low, so you may want to double check your audio. Signal's fine, it's your audio that's low. AA5AH, that's Robert in Richardson. AG5PM, Rich in Rockwall. KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James in Carrollton. I've got KF5TSK Burrow in Dallas, WB5OZL Miss Brenda in DeSoto, KF5JHA Chaz in Mesquite. Next station I've got is Patrick. I got KG5PPL. I don't think that's correct. Patrick, could you correct your call for me?
Sure thing, sir. It's Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima.
Thank you. I thought I wrote it down wrong, and I was right in that I was wrong. KG5APL, Patrick in Dallas. Thanks. K5KOB, Philip in Crandall. KF5ZVL, that's Bill, over in Farmers Branch. Additional check-ins, please come now.
Did you get me? Is that BB, Bill and Irving?
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
Yes, Bill, you were first acknowledged. Gotta listen better. N5OF, that's Clay in Mesquite. KG5UKU, that's David, also in Mesquite. Any additional check-ins before I move to Echolink? RF only, please come now. All right, I will take Echolink now. If you're on Echolink, I've got a couple of you here. I will fill you in towards the end. Echolink, please come now by voice. Your name, your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Echolink only. If you do not have a mic, just let me know and type in that you would like to be checked in and recognized. Echolink only. I'll give you extra time.
Bravo 9, CR Golf, KGTB 9FQI, David and Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin.
So Golf 5, Zulu, Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J near Weatherford. Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
T0, Mike Bravo Charlie, Shane in Blue Springs, off Echolink with
Bethany.
and
Melinda.
Martin. Got four check-ins for you.
Okay, I had to get some fills off of Echolink here. I think I've got everybody. I've got KB9er SGY, David. I didn't get where, I think she said Wisconsin, so I got you checked in. KG5ZMG. Yeah, that's correct. That would be Joe over in Arlington. I couldn't read my own handwriting there, but I confirmed it off of Echolink. K5KTX Miss Kelly in Quinlan. I understand you're having some radio problems. I do have you checked in. KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. K5JDW John in Norman. W0MBC, that's Shane in Blue Springs with a bunch of people nearby. Everybody's in place. Wonderful. Four check-ins. Thank you all. I'll take additional check-ins. Any additional check-ins who'd like to join us this evening from any mode, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Echo Lima Papa. This is Vernon in Dallas.
So Golf 5, Z, Lima Mike, Hector in Fort Worth.
All right, I got two more here. I've got KI5ELP, that's Vernon. I'm not sure where Vernon's at, but I got him checked in. I've got KG5ZLM, that's Hector in Fort Worth. Okay, this is it. I'll take one more round in case I missed anybody. Please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Mike 5 Alpha Mike. This is Bill from Rockwall, Texas.
All right, I think I got everybody. I got KM5AMM, that is Bill in Rockwall, and then over on Echolink, I got JJN5IMS. Okay, not bad, 29 check-ins on the first round. Let me go ahead and send it back to net control, KF5PDS from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom, and welcome to all who have checked in on Skynet. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima.
And Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray.
K5ICX, Tom, go ahead with your announcement.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy. There was another call in there as well. It's Alpha Bravo Mike. I don't have him on the list here. I could have misheard it. But at any rate, let me go ahead and begin. Don't forget, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club will have a meeting on the air. Let me see. I got to look at the calendar here real quick. Which will be, let's see, we've got a... All right, we do have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. We'll have a meeting on April 7th. This one will be on the air. It will be here on this frequency at 7 o'clock. That's the general meeting. That will be Old Timers Night. So if you've got a story, tall tale about amateur radio that you would like to tell, please come to that meeting. It's a lot of fun. We always give the folks that have been in the hobby the longest period of time to tell stories up front. And then after that, we've got anybody and everybody who's interested in amateur radio that go ahead and give their topics. Talk about something that's interesting, fun, humorous, or otherwise engaging about amateur radio. That will be Tuesday, March 7th, a week from this Tuesday. We also have the board meeting. I had to think what it was. The board meeting is available. Check the w5fc.org website for specific details on that. That will be held online. Everybody has been doing that. We did a test this evening and went pretty well. I had some trouble, but everybody else got in there quite well, but then I guess I'm technologically challenged. But you can get additional information at w5fc.org for that. Let me see if there's anything else. You can also go to the w5fc.org website, find out additional information. Hey, there it is. Future programs, the April lecture and lab is still very uncertain. I wouldn't count on it at this point, even though that would be the 4th Saturday of the month. Just keep checking on the Facebook page for additional information, which is Dallas Amateur Radio Club, or go to w5fc.org for additional information. And please also check our calendar for additional activities that the club is doing online or on the radio. We also have a 10 a.m. net from Monday through Friday now. I'm doing that net. It's hosted on the w5fc.org web repeater, which is what you're listening to right now. It's about 40 minutes long, between 20 and 40 minutes long. We have some fun things we do. If you have any informational type things that you would like to bring, like Walmart opening early to let us seniors in there, that's fine, or anything else. It is an information net as well as just getting us out of the doldrums of staying home. If you're one of those, the stuck at home or home alone net. Again, that's Monday through Friday. It's at 10 o'clock. It runs about between 20 and 40 minutes. We also have a topic, something that they spring upon you guys having to do with, I don't know, things that are personal that you might enjoy sharing, like favorite hobby besides amateur radio, favorite food, favorite place to go when you get the heck out of there, first place you'll go after you get out of there, favorite restaurants. Dumb stuff like that actually ends up, I write down some of the tips because they're kind of fun. Okay, back to net control. This is, there was another station out there that had an announcement. I'm going to go ahead and interject since I couldn't hear you quite. Anyone else for announcements, please?
KG5 APL.
All right, I did hear you that time. I think it's Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Tango Lima, is that correct?
No, sir. It's Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima. Is my signal unclear?
Okay, I've got you. Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima. Were you just checking in, or did you have an announcement?
I had an announcement.
Oh, it's Patrick. I've got you list up. I'm sorry, I do have you on the list here. I just can't read my own handwriting. So, Patrick, go ahead with your announcement.
No worries, there's a lot on the list. Hey all, thank you, I appreciate the time. I just wanted to make two things known to everybody. I know we are sitting at home or have a lot of free time on our hands, so I wanted to make known two of my more favorite podcasts, which are very much relevant to the folks who are interested on this net. The first being, I think it's been mentioned here before, but Space Rocket History. It's a great podcast that details the history of space flight, going from the very beginnings all the way up to, I forget where they're at now, but through Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, as well as a lot of the Soviet Union space flights as well. The second one is, I think, a little bit lesser known, but it's called The Orbital Mechanics, and I think that one is a lot more in tune to what we do here on this net as well. A lot of current events, but it's I would say it's a little step up on the technical aspect. It's a very technical podcast, but still very educational, very interesting. And I just want to give those two podcasts out. So to recap, it's Space Rocket History and the Orbital Mechanics. All right, I hope you all are staying safe and sane. Back to Net Control, KG5 APL.
KG5P question.
Hey, Mike. Oh, your audio is way better. You can contact Patrick direct, KG5APL.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Tom. I moved to a different radio. I was on my talkie because I wanted to have two computers open, but I guess I'll have to do with one tonight. This podcast for Space Rocket, was that correct? And where do I find these podcasts? KG5P.
Yeah, so the first one was Space Rocket History, 3 words, Space Rocket History, and I listen to them just through the regular iTunes app. However, they do have a website, and I believe the website is Space Rocket History Pod or Space Rocket History Podcast. I apologize, that question caught me a little bit unprepared, but I believe if you put into Google Space Rocket History Podcast, you will get his website.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, I'm not an iTunes guy. In fact, I never touch this stuff. But I still would be interested in Space Rocket History. So thank you very much. KG5P.
Sure thing. He has you don't have to go through the iTunes to get them or any of your podcasting. They're all on his website as well. So you can just get them there, listen to them streamed or downloaded. Thank you all. KG5APL.
Very good, and thank you, Patrick. And I can attest to that too. You can actually get spacerockethistory.com. If you go there, you'll find the podcasts. They are downloadable from the website. I am a huge fan of that podcast. It's been going on now for about 5 or 6 years, and they're up to 335. Entries. Now, what the fellow does is he has a tendency to repeat some of them because these are in-depth. I mean, in-depth. They include a lot of information having to do with individual space flights. They include audio. The fellow is, like a lot of us, is super fan when it comes to manned space stuff, even unmanned space stuff. So he has the books, he quotes, and has a lot of information in there. It is well worth your time. Even if you just go ahead and find a particular mission, the details on the missions are incredible. So that's spacerockethistory.com. I full agreement. Does anyone have any additional announcements they want to bring? And I'll send it back to Net Control.
KG5P with a short announcement.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, thank you. This is KG5P. When I logged on earlier, I had Tom's website up, and I noticed that Professor Mariba Kimasa-Jah had checked in. I don't see him here now, so I hope he's still here. Now, Professor Jah he's a professor at University of Texas, Austin, and he recently was promoted to tenure, so I guess that means he's an associate professor now. Anyway, his specialty, he's a member of this podcast, or this member of this group, but he's not a ham. He's not a ham. But his specialty is in tracking space junk. And he does that both as a research professor and as a professor. And I hope he's still here today. What I would like to do is get him on and, phone patch him in. But if you're here, Professor Jah, let us know. You were here earlier, but he might have dropped out. Anyway, but I'm going to work with him and try to get him on and phone patch him through. So that's Professor Jah. He contributes some of his stuff. Most of it's way beyond my head, but some interesting stuff just as well. So back to net KG5P.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mike. And yeah, he is a member of this group. Some of his included entries are interesting. I'm not sure I always understand them, but he is here. Okay, I'm going to send it back to net control. KF5PDS from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Does anybody else have any announcements before we move on? If so, please come now with your call sign. The station calling, there was a lot of static, so if you could please come again, maybe increase power, improve position, and try one more time.
Yeah, KE5, ZYO.
KE5ZYO. Are you checking into the net? If so, please give us your name and where you're transmitting from. We'll get you checked in. I think my alternate net control has picked up your info, so we'll go ahead and move on with a couple of other announcements. Sat Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com, and this net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT net, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater at 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC has several Monday night nets. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixins net. This net is all about food, cooking. If you will have a recipe you want to share or an anecdote about food or a question about food, bring it to Ham Fixins net. The second Monday of the month is MCOM 101 Emergency Communications. Come back on the third Monday of the month for a second helping of Ham Fixins net. And on the fourth Monday, we have GeekNet. This net consists of all things geeky. If you have news of the weird, geeky book, movie, anything geeky, you name it, brain teaser, come share it on the GeekNet. And some months we do have a fifth Monday in which we will have a fifth Monday surprise net. And we've done wonderful surprises such as many, many rounds of Jeopardy. We've done Christmas Thunderdome, Best and Worst Christmas Presents of the Year, April Fool's, Truth or Lies, and I believe there was a Build Your Own Short Story round robin one surprise net. So it's always a pleasant surprise on the fifth Monday surprise net. And as always on Saturdays is the Night of Nets with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. and of course at 9 p.m. Skynet. And following Skynet at 10:30, we have the Afterglow Movie Net, which you'll hear more about in just a moment. The ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and all are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as I mentioned, at 10:30, following Skynet, we have the Afterglow Movie Net. This is all about fun, geeky, classic sci-fi and contemporary sci-fi movies. Generally what we watch, we'll pick a movie to watch And then we'll watch it during the week at some point, and then come together Saturday night at 10:30 to discuss the movie. We discuss all things such as plot, characterization, special effects, you name it. We'll discuss it about the movie, trivia. It's fun. So stay tuned tonight after Skynet for the Afterglow Movie Net. And so at this time, I'll return the net to Tom, KE5ICX, if you will give us tonight's Afterglow info.
Well, thank you, Miss Billy. And here it is. I forgot to put it in the script, but I have it here. Agent K looked at the org chart. It was confusing, to say the least. He looked at the complex lines going in all directions. He tried gauging the relationships between Rick Deckard, Lieutenant Josie, Sapper Morton, Joy, and 700 disassociated people. It was enough to make a replicant detective go mad. He dropped the map and kicked it under the table. I wonder if that security job at Wallace Corporation is still open. Join us for the next Afterglow movie. This is it, Blade Runner 2049 from 2017, and it comes after the 22 blank on March 28th tonight at 10:30 p.m. If your nose is bleeding from that, time dilation is a tough thing to do. This is a really good movie, so hopefully you get a chance to see it. It's a really long movie, too. 2 hours and 20 minutes. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, at this time, we'll turn over to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So if there's anyone on frequency that would like to give us some information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, please come now with your call sign.
This is KF5JHA.
I'm not hearing anyone. Given our current situation, I was reading the chat window, and they said they had a Zoom meeting for the TAS general meeting, which normally are on the fourth Friday of every month. At 7, they usually have an orientation or talk about the Dark Sky site, and then start a meeting at 7:30. Is there anyone on frequency that attended the Zoom meeting that would like to give information about the meeting? If so, please come now with your call sign.
This is KF5JHA.
5JHA, Chaz, was that you checking in? I just barely caught the last end of your call sign.
So I'm not sure, I'm getting some problems with my radio too, but I think I'm transmitting all right. Oh, I'm hearing myself on Echolink, so I guess I'm okay. Good to hear you. Well, I see you, I should say, Kelly, because you were at the meeting as well. This was sort of a last-minute thing that they came up with. There was an idea early in the week to have maybe the meeting online on Zoom. There was a brief test to see if we could actually do Constellations of the Month early on, about midweek. And then, of course, the meeting did happen yesterday from 7:30 till about, I signed off about 9 o'clock, so it was about an hour-and-a-half meeting on Zoom. Yeah, the last time I saw, the peak I saw was around 50 people. There could have been some people coming and going, so we could have had as many as a total of 60 in and out during that time. So that's the way we're going to be meeting on the fourth Friday of each month for the time being. So that could be quite a number of months from now on. So fourth Friday of each month, 7:30, Texas Astronomical Society will meet on Zoom. But you need to be a member so you can get the information about what channel on Zoom and what the password is. Of course, our observing stations on Saturday nights are indefinitely postponed until further notice because of the coronavirus pandemic. Does anybody need any pills or have any questions? Come now, where's the call sign? Okay, I guess it's back to you, Billy. Thank you so much. KF5 PDS, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. You can go to the Texas Astronomical Society website at www.texasastro.org to find out more about membership and how to join or renew your membership. That way you can get all the good Zoom info and attend the virtual meetings until we're able to meet face-to-face again. So thanks for that update. I appreciate that. And as Chaz mentioned, until further notice, the TAS outreach events have been suspended. So we'll just have to keep watch, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to activities at some point this year. But everybody hopefully is staying safe and healthy from this coronavirus situation. So we'll just have to keep monitoring, and at least we have a way to stay in touch with Zoom, and of course here with our wonderful Skynet. So thanks for everyone to be here. So let's move on to National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll turn the net to N5BB Bill, if you'll give us information about the National Space Society.
Very good. Thank you, Billy. This is N5BB. National Space Society local events are, again, largely stopped because of the coronavirus. Our next meeting was scheduled for April the 12th, Sunday. That's a little over 2 weeks from now. But I seriously doubt that we'll have it in person. So we're starting to consider ways of doing it online, but we haven't finalized those decisions yet. We have had some officer and board of directors meetings using WebEx. International Space Development Conference, ISDC, in Frisco in late May has been canceled because of the coronavirus. And I guess the only other thing I might comment on is that the the National Space Society has a website now for members called Inside NSS, where they can send messages and do other things. So if you are an NSS member, you should have gotten within the last few weeks, maybe 2 weeks, an email with information how to set up an Inside NSS account. The website and IT infrastructure of National Space Society have completely been redone in the last couple of months. That's all I've got, unfortunately, in 5BB.
Okay, Bill, thanks for bringing the information that you have. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Next up is the session topic of the evening. So last Saturday, if you were not here, KF5JHA Chaz was our net control, and he did a great intro on Sir Isaac Newton because he also had to social distance, get some physical distance between the City of London due to plague. So, and he was able to isolate and come up with, some very wonderful things, having to do with light, gravity, and, of course, calculus. For those who don't know, I have a PhD in applied mathematics, and I am a math professor in Denison, Texas. So calculus is very near and dear to my heart. Calculus is actually when I first fell in love with mathematics because problems came to life. Calculus deals with the mathematics of change. And until you get to calculus, problems have to pretty much either stand still or move in a uniform motion. They can't speed up or slow down. When you get to calculus, problems can move. Things can speed up, slow down. And that, to me, is what breathed life into mathematics and made things so interesting and so much more realistic. And I enjoyed myself so much more. I already was really liking math, but I truly fell in love with math in Calculus 1. So these are topics very near and dear to my heart. So I found an article on WashingtonPost.com under the Retropolis section about Sir Isaac Newton and some more information about his work that he also pursued during a pandemic. So the title of the article is, "During a Pandemic, Isaac Newton had to work from home too, and he used the time wisely." Isaac Newton was in his early 20s when the Great Plague of London hit. He wasn't a sir yet. He didn't have that big formal wig. He was just another college student at Trinity College, Cambridge. It would be another 200 years before scientists discovered the bacteria that causes plague, but even without knowing exactly why, folks back then still practiced some of the same things we do to avoid illness. 1665, it was a version of social distancing, a public health tool making a comeback as government, schools, and many businesses, including the Washington Post, send people home to try to slow the spread of the novel coronavirus. Cambridge sent students home to continue their studies. For Newton, that meant Woolsthorpe Manor, the family estate about 60 miles northwest of Cambridge. Without his professors to guide him, Newton apparently thrived. The year plus he spent away was later referred to as his Annus Mirabilis, the Year of Wonders. First, he continued to work on mathematical problems he had done at Cambridge. The papers he wrote on this became early calculus. Next, he acquired a few prisms and experimented with them in his bedroom, even going so far as to bore a hole in his shutters so only a small beam could come through. From this sprung his theories on optics. And right outside his window at Woolsthorpe, there was an apple tree. Yes, that apple tree. The story of how Newton sat under the tree, was bonked on the head by an apple, and suddenly understood the theories of gravity and motion is largely apocryphal. But according to his assistant, John Conduit, there's an element of truth. Here's how Conduit later explained it. Whilst he was musing in a garden, it came into his thought that the same power of gravity which made an apple fall from the tree to the ground was not limited to a certain distance from the earth, but must extend much further than that was usually thought. Why not as high as the moon, he said to himself. In London, a quarter of the population would die of plague from 1665 to 1666. It was one of the last major outbreaks in 400 years that the Black Death ravaged Europe. Newton returned to Cambridge in 1667, theories in hand. In 6 months, he was made a fellow. 2 years later, a professor. So if you're working on studying from the next few weeks, perhaps remember the example Newton set. Having time to muse and experiment in unstructured comfort proved life-changing for him, and no one remembers whether he made it out of his pajamas before noon. And just to put a little bit of context to that, he came up with these things, he returned to Cambridge in 1667 with theories in hand. He was born in 1643, so 53, 63, so he was 24 years old. So that was from Jillian Brockwell in the Washington Post. Let me read you just some bonus information. 9 things you may not know about Isaac Newton. Here's some information from the History Channel. It's an article by Elizabeth Nix, 9 things you may not know about Isaac Newton. So You can find out more about this fascinating Englishman from the job he held that involved sending people to the gallows to the cause of one of his most bitter rivalries. So here we go. Number 1. His unhappy childhood helped shape his secretive personality. Newton was born prematurely on the Julian calendar, Christmas Day 1642, which on the Gregorian calendar would be January 4th, 1643. So just in case you're reading about his birthday, there was a different calendar. He was born at his family's home, Woolsthorpe Manor, near the town of Grantham, England, several months after the death of his father, an illiterate farmer. When Newton was 3, his mother wed a wealthy clergyman named Barnabas Smith. He didn't want a stepson. Newton's mother went to live with her new husband in another village, leaving behind her young son in the care of his grandparents. The experience of being abandoned by his mother scarred Newton and likely played a role in shaping the solitary, untrusting nature. As an adult, Newton immersed himself in his work, had no hobbies, and never married. He even remained silent about some of his scientific and mathematical discoveries for years, if he published them at all. Number 2, Newton's mother wanted him to be a farmer. At age 12, Newton was enrolled in a school in Grantham, where he boarded at the home of the local apothecary because the daily walk from Woolsthorpe Manor was too long. Initially, he wasn't a strong student. However, as the story goes, following a confrontation with a school bully, Newton started applying himself in an effort to best the other boy and transformed into a top student. However, at age 15 or 16, he was ordered to quit school by his mother, then widowed a second time, and returned to Woolsthorpe Manor to become a farmer. The teen was uninterested in the job and fared poorly at it. Eventually, Newton's mother was persuaded by her son's former headmaster at Grantham, where
if you're one of those
British
people
Prime
that doesn't
Minister
have Spectrum
Margaret
Internet
Thatcher was
yet,
born
here's
in
activities you can do while you're
1925
waiting for things to
to allow
download.
him to
Learn
return
the
to
alphabet
school.
backwards.
After
Z,
finishing
Y.
his coursework there, Newton left for Trinity College, University Cambridge, in 1661, putting farming behind him for good. Number 3, the Black Death inadvertently set the stage for one of his most famous insights. In 1665, following an outbreak of the bubonic plague in England, Cambridge University closed its doors, forcing Newton to return home to Woolsthorpe Manor. While sitting in the garden there one day, he saw an apple fall from a tree, providing him with the inspiration to eventually formulate his law of universal gravitation. Newton later relayed the story of the apple to William Stukeley, who included it in a book, Memoir of Sir Isaac Newton's Life, published in 1752. In 2010, a NASA astronaut carried a piece of the ancient apple tree aboard the space shuttle Atlantis for a mission to the International Space Station. The Royal Society, a scientific organization once headed by Newton, loaned the piece of the tree for the voyage as part of the celebration of the 350th anniversary of the group's founding. Today, the original apple tree continues to grow at Woolsthorpe Manor. Number 4, as professor at Cambridge, his lectures were poorly attended. In 1669, Newton, then 26, was appointed Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge, one of the world's oldest universities, whose origins date to 1209. Newton was the second person to hold the Lucasian professorship. The 17th person, from 1979 to 2009, was physicist and A Brief History of Time author Stephen Hawking. Although he remained at Cambridge for nearly 30 years, he showed little interest in teaching or in his students, and his lectures were sparsely attended. Frequently, no one showed up at all. Newton's attention was centered on his own research. Number 5. Newton ran the Royal Mint and had forgers executed. In 1696, Newton was named to the job of Warden of the Royal Mint, which was responsible for producing England's currency. He left Cambridge, his longtime home, and moved to his nation's capital city, where the mint was located in the Tower of London. 3 years later, Newton was promoted promoted to the more lucrative position of Master of the Mint, a post he held until his death in 1727. During his tenure at the Mint, Newton supervised a major initiative to take all the country's old coins out of circulation and replace them with more reliable currency. He was also focused on investigating counterfeiters, and as a result became acquainted with the city's seedy underbelly as he personally tracked down and interviewed suspected criminals, receiving death threats along the way. A number of forgers he went after were sent to the gallows. Number 6, he had a serious interest in alchemy. In addition to the scientific endeavors for which he's best known, Newton spent much of his adult life pursuing another interest, alchemy, whose goals included finding the Philosopher's Stone, a substance that allegedly could turn ordinary metals like lead and iron into gold. He was secretive about his alchemical experiments and recorded some of his research in code. Among his other research projects, Newton analyzed the Bible in an attempt to find secret messages about how the universe works. Number 7, Newton served in Parliament quietly. From 1689 to 1690, Newton was a member of Parliament representing Cambridge University. During his time, the legislative body enacted the Bill of Rights, which limited the power of the monarchy and laid out the rights of Parliament along with certain individual rights. Newton's contributions to Parliament apparently were limited, though. He reportedly spoke only once, and when he asked an usher to close a window because it was chilly. Nevertheless, while in London, Newton became acquainted with a number of influential people, from King William III to the philosopher John Locke. Newton served a second brief term in Parliament from 1701 to 1702, and again seems to have contributed little. Number 8, he had fierce rivalries. When it came to his intellectual rivals, Newton could be jealous and vindictive. Among those with whom he feuded was a German mathematician and philosopher, Gottfried Leibniz. The two men had a bitter battle over who invented calculus. Newton developed a version of calculus in the 1660s, but didn't publish his work at the time. In the 1670s, Leibniz formulated his own version of calculus, publishing his work a decade later. Newton later charged that the German scholar had plagiarized his unpublished writings after documents summarizing it circulated through the Royal Society. Leibniz contended he'd reached his results independently and implied that Newton had stolen from his published work. In an effort to defend himself, Leibniz eventually appealed to the Royal Society, and in 1712, Newton, who'd served as the organization's president since 1703, agreed that an impartial committee would be a look at the issue. Instead, he packed the committee with his supporters and even penned the group's report, which publicly credited him with discovering calculus. Today, however, Leibniz's system of calculus is the one commonly used. And just an aside, I'll mention there's a wonderful book out called The Calculus Wars, if you'd like to read about the bitter war between Newton and Leibniz. And lastly, number 9, Newton was knighted. In 1705, Newton was knighted by Queen Anne. By that time, he'd become wealthy after inheriting his mother's property following her death in 1679, and also had published 2 major works, 1687's Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, commonly called the Principia, and 1704's Optics. After the celebrated scientist died at age 84 on March 20th, 1727, he was buried in Westminster Abbey, the resting place of English monarchs, as well as such notable non-royals as Charles Darwin, Charles Dickens, and explorer David Livingstone. So there you have an in-depth look at Sir Isaac Newton. So that, I'll go back. So that was History Channel, Elizabeth Nix, and Washington Post, Jillian Brockwell. So this is KSI's PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa, question.
If IP Mike, go ahead with your question, sir.
Okay, thank you, Billy. A wonderful talk, and I could probably talk about this all night. But I won't, because we got other stuff to do. But I'm fascinated myself as an engineer on calculus. And I did not take calculus till I was in college. And I don't know why they even teach calculus in high school. I understand they do, but I think they're getting way ahead of themselves, because to understand calculus, you need a really good background in algebra. And when you do that, the calculus will take care of itself. Now, here's what I think. Tell me if I'm right or not. There's a lot of things you can do in calculus. And calculus is the mathematics of change. Algebra is the mathematics of the straight line. Calculus is the mathematics of the curve. Well, that would work just fine, except for the fact that the world is not a straight line. The world is a curve. Things change. Like, for instance, as an electrical engineer, we wouldn't have to use calculus if everything was DC current. But it's not. It's AC current that gives us what we have today. It gives us, for instance, radio. Okay, and what calculus does, it enables us to analyze electronic components and electronic phenomena that we could not use with just algebra, because things aren't straight lines. Okay, so I had a professor once when I was in college, and I think he was teaching us how to calculate, how to divide derivatives. And to this day, I still don't know what the reason is to divide derivatives. And I asked him once, and I think it was that, and his reply was, "That's for you guys to figure out." His job was to teach us the tools, and it's us to use them. And I'm an engineer, so mathematics is a tool for us. And I've never taken mathematics. I think maybe I was a junior in college, and the last mathematics course I took was in differential equations. And I understand from people that have gone further than that mathematics looks completely different after differential equations. I've never gotten that far. But it's a tool used by engineers. And as engineers, we couldn't, what we do, we couldn't do without mathematics. So, you talk about Newton and Gottfried Leibniz, and they were contemporaries, and they didn't like each other, and they didn't trust each other, as Billy said. And there's two different notations that use in calculus. One is Newtonian, and the other is the Leibniz notation. And typically in electrical engineering, you use the Leibniz notation, and I never could understand why one never took over the other. For instance, Maxwell's equations are based on Leibniz. The integral sign, that crazy S thing you see, that's Leibniz. And so my first question is why did not Leibniz take over the Newtonian notation? And they say basically they're the same thing. It's just, but we currently use both notations. And the calculus wars, maybe that explains it in there. Newton wrote a book, The Principia Mathematica, and I have a copy of that sitting in my library. I've never read it, but that's okay. But I always wondered why there are those two different notations, and we still use them today, even though primarily in engineering we use the Leibniz notation. So maybe you could answer that, and maybe throw in some other little pieces of information, because I find this totally fascinating. Calculus is, unless you've studied it, it's the most amazing thing our species has ever come up with. And I don't say this as a mathematician, because I'm certainly not. I'm just an engineer. So back to net KG5P.
Great, yeah. In my mathematical career, I did go beyond differential equations. And so after that, when you get into your junior and senior years of mathematics as a math major, you study real analysis. You start to study the number line, theoretical concepts of calculus. You start to get more and get into analysis courses, learning to prove why things work the way they do, why limits converge, and things like that. So you look at the concepts of convergence and basic properties of the real number line and the complex plane, etc. So you get more into the proving side, the analytical side of mathematics. And yeah, the higher up you go, it becomes purely symbolic. You get to where you're not even calculating with numbers anymore. You're just expressing ideas symbolically. So without getting too technical, you basically just move to the analysis side, and then when you get into your master's degree, then you go more into researching and doing more research and things, and then of course when the doctoral level you pursue original work of your own and create what's called a dissertation. So just a basic skeleton for those that are not familiar with the math major world. If you want to know more about that, I could certainly bring more to the net at some other time. But the two notations, I do find the Leibniz notation, which folks, if you're not familiar, it's the dy over dx. We write the derivative as a dy dx. And it's more useful because it tells what you're differentiating with respect to what variable. And the higher up you go, when you start to have functions of two or more variables, it's very important to distinguish what you're differentiating with respect to. And the Leibniz notation is very specific with that. Newton's notation is what we call prime notation, where you write the letter F and a prime symbol, which is kind of like a little apostrophe-looking symbol. And that's good for shorthand if you're not needing to look at differentials separately. If you're just looking for I think it has come to serve a good purpose as a shorthand notation, but it's certainly only good in certain instances, and the Leibniz notation has mostly taken over. And in the calculus wars, I think probably a reason for that is because Newton didn't publish until later. Leibniz got published first because as Newton was working in the 1660s, the publishing houses, there was a big fire in London, and the majority of the publishing houses burned down. So there was just not a publishing house to be had to get the work out. And so they had to rebuild and restructure, and that's why it took Newton better part of a decade to get his work even out. So I think, even though Leibniz's notation has come more to the forefront, Newton's notation still does serve a purpose of efficiency. So that's why it has not completely died out. So it does provide some good handy notation. When it just, I usually use both notations, and it just depends on the context as to which one I use. If I need to be very specific about what variables I'm referring to, then I use the Leibniz notation. Otherwise, the prime notation serves for quick calculation, and it's a little bit easier to read as well. So thank you for the question and for the input on that. Yes, calculus is very important in engineering. I try to always stress that in all of my classes because I teach future mathematicians and engineers. All right, this is KFI PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. So next up is space exploration and space history. I have on here that Brenda and Kelly alternate. Tom, can you tell me who is to cover this segment this evening? If you will, please let me know.
Oops, I forgot to highlight in the script. Brenda, WB50ZL has it this week. KE5I6.
Great, thank you so much, Tom. All right, at this time, then I will turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. Please give us a report on space exploration and space history.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. An anniversary, March 23rd, 1840, was the first photograph of the moon. John William Draper, who lived between 1811 and 1882, was an English-born American scientist, philosopher, physician, chemist, photographer. He is credited with producing not only the first clear photograph of a female face, that was in 1839 to 40, but also the first detailed photograph of the moon, and that was in 1840. March 20, also a birthday for Werner von Braun. He was a German and later American aerospace engineer and space architect. He was a leading figure in the development of rocket technology in Germany and a pioneer of rocket and space technology in the United States. While in his 20s and early 30s, he worked in Nazi Germany's rocket development program. He helped design and develop the V-2 rocket at Peenemünde during World War II. Following the war, he was secretly moved to the United States along with about 1,600 other German scientists, engineers, and technicians as part of Operation Paperclip. He worked for the United States on an intermediate-range ballistic missile program, and he developed the rockets that launched the United States' first space satellite, Explorer 1. In 1960, his group was assimilated into NASA, where he served as director of the newly formed Marshall Space Flight Center and as the chief architect of the Saturn V super heavy-lift launch vehicle that propelled the Apollo spacecraft to the moon. In 1967, he was inducted into the National Academy of Engineering, and in 1975, he received the National Medal of Science. March 25th, 1655, Saturn's moon Titan was discovered by Christian Huygens. Titan is the largest moon of Saturn and the second largest natural satellite in the solar system. It's the only moon known to have a dense atmosphere and the only known body in space other than Earth where clear evidence of stable bodies of a surface liquid has been found. It's the sixth gravitationally rounded moon from Saturn. Frequently described as a planet-like moon, Titan is 50% larger than Earth's moon and 80% more massive. It's the second largest moon in the solar system after Jupiter's moon, Ganymede, and is larger than the planet Mercury. Next, this is current news. 4 ESA missions are put on standby because of coronavirus concerns. The ESA placed 4 of its missions on safe and temporary standby amid the ongoing spread of coronavirus around the world and calls by local and national governments to scale back on on-site personnel. ESA currently has 21 active space missions. The 4 selected for standby are in stable orbits and long mission durations. Currently, we are watching Comet Atlas. Nobody knows how big the icy core is, possibly no wider than a few kilometers. One thing's for sure, the comet's atmosphere is huge. The images from amateur astronomers around the world show that Atlas's gaseous envelope has ballooned in diameter to 720,000 kilometers, about half as wide as the Sun. It has a near parabolic comet, which was discovered by the Atlas survey on December 28, 2019. It's currently the brightest comet of 2020 and can be found in the constellation of Ursa Major with a pair of binoculars or a telescope. Soon it will be observable to the naked eye. Recently, NASA's InSight lander, which is currently on the surface of Mars, faced some unexpected problems during its mission to explore and study the planet. Namely, a digging probe that was built to burrow beneath the surface like a jackhammer got stuck because Mars's soil is clumpier than scientists expected. After a few failed attempts to get it out, NASA had to get a bit creative. Ultimately, it freed up the probe by giving it a solid thwack with InSight's shovel. If you are an engineer or a technician, then you know about thwacking things that don't work. Lots of pieces of equipment have dented sides where they were thwacked. I've seen them. And right now, today, the sunspot number is 0, and this is the 17th day in a row of spotless days. All right, back to net. This is WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for the session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is Chaz, KF5JHA, resident astronomer, to tell us what's up. KF5JHA, the net is yours.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, although I don't have a PhD like Billy has. But I do work at Brookhaven Community College, and we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. You know, I think there was a core of truth in all of what Billy was talking about. I'm waiting for the applause or the laughter. Okay, I'll try more later. Remember that Skynet is only available on the Dallas repeater 1468. Let me try that again. 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9, but it's also available to hams across the planet via Echolink, and a lot of people are on Echolink tonight. And most weeks, Skynet is also available with a video component. You can find the links to all that at the website w5fc.org website. So with radio, Echolink, and video, I say that Skynet is in 3D. But our friend Tony, NT5TM, I don't think I've heard him on here tonight, says that we are in 4D because we use the dimension of time. By the way, what goes on in the chat window of Echolink, like right now, something about light pollution, might have nothing to do with what's going on with the video or anything to do with what's being said on air. So to get the full 3D, or rather 4D version of Skynet, you must be monitoring all three areas at the same time. Now, if you did not know it, we are practicing social distancing on this net in a couple of ways. One is that we're not meeting face-to-face. Well, that's pretty obvious. But another way is how we are doing it. What is the wavelength band that we are transmitting on? It is 2 meters. Convert 2 meters into feet, and that's about 6.5 feet. So we just need to stay a wavelength away from each other. I thought that was funny. Now, last week would have been the best time this year for a Messier marathon. But two factors got in the way: weather and the COVID-19 pandemic. At the 3RF Comanche Springs Astronomy Campus, that's where I was going to plan on doing 3 nights of observing, but that location was full of mud due to all the rain and the construction going on that site, so that was canceled. Tonight would have been the Messier Marathon to happen by the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas at their dark site location, but that was canceled because of the COVID-19 pandemic. There is a window of opportunity in the fall to observe more than 100 Messier objects as well, and TASS might take advantage of that this year. In 2019, a few dozen TASS members did that in the fall. They called it a ghost hunt. Now, most of you know what a Messier Marathon is, but there may be a few out there in radio land that don't know what I'm talking about. So let me explain. In the 1700s, astronomers were interested in comets. Comets appeared as faint, fuzzy objects that usually move slowly from night to night across the sky. But there are these permanent, non-moving, fuzzy objects that are in the sky. And at that time, astronomers didn't understand what they were. So, to Charles Messier, these non-moving, fuzzy objects were bothersome, and he started making a list of these. After Messier published a few lists of these non-comet fuzzy things, with some additions made by research that we've done on Messier's work, we've now added up the entire list to be 110 of these objects. The list was originally designed to be a list of things not to look at because they weren't comets. But now this is a list of the must-see objects. It's a list of some of the finest examples of the death place of stars, birthplaces of stars, open star clusters, globular star clusters, emission nebulas, reflection nebulas, galaxies, and more. Most sounds like lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Amateur and professional astronomers alike observe these Messier objects regularly, and amateurs astronomers usually look at them nightly. Now, the Messier objects are not evenly distributed across the sky. In fact, around the vernal equinox for the northern hemisphere, you can see over 100 of the Messier objects in just a single night, from sunset to sunrise. Back around 1980, I participated in a Messier marathon, and I observed 108 of the 110 objects in just a single night. And this is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Okay, let's change gears. Looking over the asteroids that are monitored with orbits close to the Earth, we did have, on March 22nd, asteroid 2020 FL2 get less than half the distance to the Moon from us. It had a speed of 20.3 kilometers per second and a size of about 21 meters. On March 25th, asteroid 2020 FJ4 get about 30% closer to us than the Moon. It has a speed of 13.7 kilometers per second, and that's a small, only about 5 meters in size. That's bigger than my office at Brookhaven College. We do not have any really close approaching asteroids predicted over the next couple of weeks. The Moon was new on March 24th, so the current phase of the Moon, if you went out and looked at it tonight, is waxing crescent, and the Moon will be at first quarter on April the 1st. Really? No fooling. It'll be first quarter on April the 1st. The Moon will be full on April the 7th. The Moon will also be at perigee on April the 7th with a distance of 356,908 kilometers. Now, this is usually where I do a Moon joke. I've done most of the Moon jokes, so here goes a non-Moon joke. How do you tell the gender of an ant? Well, I found out that you drop the ant in water. If it sinks, girl gnat. If it floats, it's a boy ant. A boy ant, get it? Boy ant. Since some of us have more time on our hands, it will be a great time to observe the nighttime sky. And once again, this week, the prediction is for more sunshine than rain. Woo! Tonight was sunset at 7:44 p.m. Central Daylight Time. But even before sunset, you could have gone out and seen both Venus and the Moon in the daytime sky. At around 7 o'clock, I found the Moon high overhead. And about 10 degrees north-northwest of the crescent moon, I found Venus with just my two eyes. So it's easy to find Venus in the daytime sky if you use the Moon if it's close to Venus as your guide. If you haven't been watching Venus It is the brightest object in the sky other than the sun and the moon. It's very easy to spot about halfway up in the western evening sky just after sunset. And tonight, Venus is still visible all the way up until about 11:30 when it sets. So go out and take a look, even after Skynet. On March 31st, Saturn and Mars will be in conjunction in the early morning sky. And on April the 3rd, in the evening sky, Venus is in the middle of the Pleiades star cluster. Using a telescope or binoculars that evening, you could see Venus occult or cover up some of the stars from the Pleiades. You can watch this event from dusk all the way till when Venus sets around 11:30. And finally, on April 15th, nope, that's not tax day this year. The IRS has moved the deadline for taxes to July 15th this year. Anyway, on April the 15th, in the early morning sky, you can observe the moon and Saturn in conjunction with Mars to the left and Jupiter to the right. It'll be a great photographic opportunity for some of you out there. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Just another moment. Don't forget that through the COVID-19 pandemic, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, once it's over, will resume those meetings. Well, we had a meeting on air, on Zoom this week, last night, but we'll resume the public observing stations on Saturday nights once this is all over. Check their website, texasastro.org, for details about that. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any information, or maybe a general question on astronomy? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question.
Kilo Golf, 5 Papa.
Kilo Golf 5 Papa. I think you're Mike. Come now. It's yours.
Yeah, this is Mike. Actually, I'm talking to the mic. Is that redundant? I don't know. Yeah, that's right. My name is Mike. I did know the answer to your ant joke, you see, because I have a degree in ant breeding from Aunt Martha's School of Typewriter Maintenance. However, that's not what I was going to talk about. This has to do with some winter constellations, and I know you know a lot about constellations. So this time of the year, we have Orion the Hunter, which is not going to be out a whole lot longer because it's, winter's kind of over with, and it's really a winter constellation, but it's still visible. And Orion the Hunter is followed by his dogs, Canis Major and Canis Minor. Okay, and kind of on the other side of the sky, we have the circumpolar constellations, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, and they're circumpolar because they never set, like Orion eventually set. So my question to you, is, I never knew what Orion hunted, but did he hunt bear? So that's the question. Did Orion hunt bear? Go ahead.
No, I don't think so. He was going after a bull.
Well, that could be true. I guess you're right. But you're right. He did not hunt bear. He hunted wearing red flannel underwear like everybody else. Back to net KG5P.
Oh, Billy, you need to help me get out of this. So, as the moon waned at the end of March, so do these words. Until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, back to our net control. Billy, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Chaz. And I found your presentation quite sufficient. This is KF5 PDS. Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. We're running on time, so apologies. We're going to have to cut the net short with presentations. So, Tom, KE5ICX, if you will see if we have any final check-ins and give me a final count for this evening's net, we'll wrap things up. This is KF5 PDS to KE5ICX.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Coming up after this is KE5ICX and net control. Alternate net control, I'll get this one right. I'll take final check-ins. Anybody like to join us this evening? Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you are transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
N5YEO, Steve, San Antonio.
Kilo 5, Alpha, November, Papa, Allen in Dallas.
India 5, Bravo, November, Papa, Luis in Fort Worth.
All right, let me go ahead and get those final check-ins. I have WB4MSI Ted in Dallas, NT5TM Tony in Dallas, N5YEO Stephen in San Antonio, K5ANP, that's Alan in Dallas, KI5BNP Luis in Fort Worth. Did I miss anybody? Please come down. All right, we had 35 check-ins. Miss Billy, back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Tonight we have hams participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:33 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. So 7-3 everyone, and join the evening Discovering the Universe. And remember, stay tuned for the Afterglow movie net. 73 everyone.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes to discuss Blade Runner 2049 from a couple of years ago. Time's up. Oh wait, that was Time's Up. That would have been Ricardo Montalban in my worst voice. Tonight's movie is Blade Runner 2049. That was released in 2017, which seems like a long time ago, but it was only 3 years ago. And a bunch of us from the Afterglow Movie Net actually saw that movie together. In fact, I think there's a picture of us watching that movie in the on the website. But in any case, this is KE5ICX. I'll be your net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. So what is Blade Runner 2049? Think about this because we're going to discuss it in a minute. It's a 2017 American neo-noir science fiction film directed by Denis Villeneuve and written by Hampton Fancher and Michael Green. It's a sequel to the 1982 film Blade Runner, and the film stars Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, Ana de Armas, Sylvia Hoeks, Robin Wright, and a bunch of other people. And it also has Harrison Ford and Edward James Olmos reprising their roles from the original. Set 30 years after the first film, Gosling plays K, a Nexus 9 replicant Blade Runner who uncovers a secret that threatens to destabilize society and the course of civilization. The original director, Ridley Scott, served as the executive producer on the film. Principal photography took place between July and November 2016 in Budapest, Hungary. Blade Runner 2049 premiered in Los Angeles on October 3rd, 2017 and was released in the United States in 3D and IMAX on October 6th, 2017. On to the plot. In 2049, bioengineered humans known as replicants are slaves. K, a replicant, works for the Los Angeles Police Department as a Blade Runner, an officer who hunts and retires or kills rogue replicants. A protein farm, he retires Sapper Morton and finds a box buried under a tree. The box contains the remains of a female replicant who died during a cesarean section, demonstrating that replicants can reproduce biologically, previously thought impossible. K's superior, Lieutenant Josie, fears that this could lead to a war between humans and replicants. She orders K to find out and retire the replicant child to hide the truth. I hope my hum is gone now. I was told I have a hum, which means there's some sort of 60 cycle or something causing it. Hopefully that's better. I am waiting for them to tell me, but let's see, much better. Okay, well, we'll continue. I'll figure it out later. At Morton's farm, Kay sees the date 6/10/21 carved into a tree hunk and recognizes from his childhood memory of a toy horse. Because replicants' memories are artificial, Kay's holographic AI girl, Joy, believes this evidence that Kay was born and not created. He searches LAPD records and discovers twins born on that date with identical DNA aside from the sex chromosome, but only the boy is listed as alive. Kate tracks the child to an orphanage in ruined San Diego and discovers the records from that year to be missing. Kay recognizes the orphanage from his memories and finds the toy horse where he remembers hiding it. Dr. Ann Stelline, a replicant memory designer, confirms that the memory of the orphanage is real, leading Kay to conclude that he is Rachel's son. At LAPD headquarters, Kay fails a post-traumatic baseline test, marking him as a rogue replicant. He lies to Josie by implying he killed the replicant child. Josie gives Kay 48 hours to disappear. At Joy's request, Kay reluctantly transfers her to a mobile emitter or an emanator so he cannot be tracked through her console memory files. He is the toy horse analyzed, revealing traces of radiation that led him to the ruins of Las Vegas. He finds Deckard, who reveals that he is the father of Rachel's child and that he has scrambled the birth records to protect the child's identity. Deckard left the child in the custody of a replicant freedom movement. Love kills Josie and tracks Kay to Las Vegas. She kidnaps Deckard, destroys Joy, and leaves Kay to die. The Replicant Freedom Movement rescues Kay with their leader, Freesia, tells him that she helped deliver Rachel's child and that her child was actually a girl. Kay understands he is not Rachel's child, deduces that from Stelline is her daughter, and that the memory of the toy horse is hers. Once she implanted amongst most of the replicants whose memories she designed. To prevent Deckard from leading Wallace to Stein or the Freedom Movement, Freesia asks Kay to kill Deckard for the greater good of all replicants. Love takes Deckard to Wallace Corporation headquarters to meet Wallace. Wallace offers Deckard a clone of Rachel in exchange for revealing what he knows. Deckard refuses and the clone is killed. As Love transports Deckard to be tortured and interrogated off-world, Kay intercepts Love's shuttle and tries to rescue Deckard. He fights Love and manages to drown her, but he is mortally wounded. He stages Deckard's death to protect him from Wallace and the Replicant Freedom Movement before taking Deckard to Stelline's office and handing him her toy horse. As Kay lies motionless on the steps looking up the snowy sky, Deckard enters the building and meets his daughter for the first time. End credits. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's spoilers. So just pretend you didn't hear any of that stuff. Okay, this is KE5ICX. I am Net Control, tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. We're talking about Blade Runner 2049. I will take check-ins. Our first topic is always about the plot. So think about the plot if you saw the film. And even if you didn't, we'll talk about Blade Runner in general, or even some of the concepts that are introduced into this film. So let's go ahead and get started. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Well, if no one will be first, November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, I've seen about half the movie. In Dallas.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus for Northeast Dallas, short time.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sarah Kilo, Berlin, Dallas. I did see the movie.
Kilo 5, Alpha, November Echo, Richardson, and yes, I saw the movie.
It's a little slow getting started, and there was one double, so if you don't hear your name, I missed you because of the double. I've got NT5TM Tony in Dallas. He saw half the movie. W5GUS Gus in Northeast Dallas. He's short time. You're towards the top of the list, so I'll ask you about the story at least. K5TSK Burl in Dallas. Yep, he saw the movie. K5ANE. I believe that's Kane over in Richardson. That's what he goes by. And yep, he saw the movie. Additional check-ins, please come now. Your call sign name, your location. Let me know if you saw Blade Runner 2049.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto, and yes, I did see it.
Whiskey Tango 9 Volt, Michael in Plano, and yes, I saw it. I have no idea what I saw, but I saw it. I think. I'm still confused.
Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Junior Weatherford. I saw it.
All right, I got a few more. I got WB50ZL, Miss Brenda over in DeSoto. Yep, she saw it. WT9 Volt. That's Michael in Plano. Yep, he saw it. And KG5BZWJ near Weatherford, he saw it. I'll go ahead and take Echolink check-ins. I'll give you extra time. Please come now, Echolink.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Oklahoma.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. I did not get to see the 2049, but I did watch Blade Runner, the final cut, in preparation, but then I never got around to seeing the 2049. So I did see the first Blade Runner. This is KFI PDS.
We've got KG5PMN, James, over in Oklahoma tonight. I've got you checked in. I don't know if you saw the movie or not. I'm going to say no, but I'm going to still call on you in a little bit. If it's a yes, we'll be talking about plot in a minute or two. We got KFI PDS Miss Billy. Thank you for being great net control this evening. She saw the 1980 version of the film, which is still probably the best of the two, although this one gives it a run for its money. Any additional check-ins before I go down the list? Please come down.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. David in Dallas, yes, I saw it.
All right, very good. I got W5EVB, David in Dallas. Yep, he saw the film. Now, what I should do, and this has happened before, but I won't do it tonight, is sometimes you reverse the order of the check-ins just because, well, you can get some good ideas from other people's ideas, and if you're at the end of the list, you rule. And that's the advantage of being net control, for sure, because I just sit there and go, that's an interesting comment. Why didn't I think of that? Oh, I did, because I'll mention that. I thought of that instantly before the movie ever began. So, yeah, when you're net control, you rule. If you're not net control, then you kind of like wait until the end. Okay, let's start at the top. NT5TM, Tony, you saw the film, or about halfway through the film. I have a feeling you're going to tell us why you didn't make it all the way through the film. Tell us about Blade Runner 2049, about plot. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Well, I'm not really sure what to say. I will probably have more comments, mostly from Aaron, when we get to characters. For me, at the halfway point, mainly I've just run out of time. It's been a busy day, and this movie is extremely long and extremely slow. And unfortunately, I have had a very hard time following the plot. Due to some technical difficulties, I couldn't get the subtitles turned on until just recently. And the dialogue is mixed relatively low compared to all the background noise, and my hearing is relatively imperfect compared to that of many others. And so I've often had a very hard time, like, what's this scene about? I've got about half the words. So for me, it's been slow, is really all I can say, and I'll have more comments about character and production design in future rounds. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. You are not alone in that department. I found the audio a little difficult to understand. W5TUS, Gus, you said short time, but you're at the top of the list, so I thought I'd just economize here. Anything you want to say about the film? I don't know if you saw it or not, but it's Blade Runner 2049, so go ahead with any comments you got about, I don't know, Blade Runner. W5TUS from KE5ICX.
All right, thank you, Tom. W5GUS here. Yes, I saw 49 and the original Blade Runner. I saw the original Blade Runner several times. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. And so with that in mind, I went to see Blade Runner 49 at the big screen, and I came away thinking, well, you know, that was okay, but I didn't like it that much. You know, I thought it's kind of weird. I really didn't like it as much as the original Blade Runner. But I went back again. I saw it a second time at the big screen, maybe a week later, and came away with I really like it now. After that second viewing, I thought it is close to. Definitely, like you said, comparable to the original Blade Runner. Let me reset. It was the second time I got a lot of details on the plot and a lot of more information that really made a difference. I could understand and follow the plot much better and understood the plot after that second view, and I've seen it a couple more times, and I think I've been enchanted with it, 49, like I have been with the original Blade Runner. I don't think it's quite as good as the original, but I will see it again and look forward to seeing it again many more times. I think it's really a good movie, both of them. All right, well, that's about it. Back to Ned, W5GUS.
Well, thank you, Burl, and it's interesting. I'm sorry, Gus. Up one. There it is. Gus, I want to resist saying anything, but your comments are exactly how I felt about the first film, too. I didn't like it the first time around, and then it grew on me, and it's become a favorite. And I think it has the same kind of formula that made that work. I'll stop there. KF5TSK, Burl in Dallas. You saw the film. What did you think about the plot?
This is KF5TSK. I think the plot was really too long. The beginning was, to have to read, what the setting is, where they are, what the year is, and what's going on. Kind of took away from everything. Like I say, the length, was hard on everyone because, gee, you've got to plan on sitting there for at least over 2 hours, and there were things that probably could be cut out that might have made it easier to endure, but some of the scenes, it's almost like it was redundant. It's like, where are we going next? What are we doing? But one of the things about the film was I thought everything was, very consistent as far as plot. It kind of all fit together. One of the things that I thought was really good is it really didn't do anything that was... everything looked technically capable today, so it'll be a film that won't be old or look like why did they put that in the film? Overall, I thought it was a good plot. KF5TSK back to net.
All right, thank you, Burl. And yep, there's more to discuss. K5ANE, Kane, over in Richardson. You saw the movie. What did you think about it?
I think overall they did a really good job with the plot. The first Blade Runner was kind of a slow movie to get going, but it has a lot of depth to it and lots of layers that you can just continuously pick at. And I think they did a pretty similar job here, which I like. I'm probably going to end up saying that a lot about the other concepts in the film, too. This has a lot of deep and, powerful topics that it touches on, such as subjugation and slavery and the role of reproduction in society and sexism in society. It's really quite a powerful movie in the statements that it makes with all these things. And reading some of the reviews about it, it was actually kind of interesting because it seems like a lot of people noticed the things it was saying but didn't quite understand its statements on these ideas, especially when it comes to a lot of the somewhat sexist scenes in a lot of these. A lot of people saw it and was like, oh, this is just, tons of sexism in it. And it's like, well, yeah, because they're trying to point out how this is bad, bad in a bad society. Let me reset. So yeah, overall, a really deep movie, kind of slow, but it's got a lot to say. So that's part of why it's slow. So I think it's forgivable for being slow. I don't know. A lot of my friends ended up falling asleep on the original Blade Runner too, so that's kind of its thing. This is K5A&E, back to net control.
Thank you, Kane. We're talking about Blade Runner 2049 that came out a couple years ago, 3 years ago. Next up is WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, you saw the film. What did you think about the plot?
This is WB50ZL. Well, I have mixed feelings about it. First of all, I really enjoyed the movie. Lots of fascinating concepts in there. The whole idea of what makes us human, and we have, I don't want to say we've overdone it, but we certainly have explored this many, many times, and with good reason. It's a compelling subject, what makes people human. And, another exploration of that is always in order. It was too long, it was too slow. There is a 4-hour version of it somewhere. They're never gonna show it, they say. I just can't imagine how you could sit through that. One of my, I have several complaints. I think they got too wrapped up in let's make it so dystopian that it's just awful, just a horrible place to live. And it was. That is no place I would ever want to be. And way too many people. I could just see the Soylent Company bringing in trucks and scooping up people. Fed all these people. I don't know where people found joy. Most of their entertainment seemed to be in some really seedy things. Did people have friends? Do they sit around and talk? Do they have fun? Do they play games? The only children we saw were the ones in the orphanage doing slave labor. There weren't any kids running around playing hopscotch. So I don't know, how people had kids or families. It was pretty much a total breakdown in society, in my opinion. One of my other complaints is where you don't know what's happening. Is Kay dead in the end or not? He's lying there still, and they leave us with that question of whether he's dead. And he's looking up at the snow, and then you go inside, and the memory maker's making snow. I thought, is there a connection there? But they never said so. So many things where you look at it and think maybe there's something, but they don't tell you. So you're just kind of left to imagine or be confused. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Let's see, next up, WT9V. That would be Michael. You saw the film. You're in Plano. Tell us about the plot.
I don't really have... you already told us what the plot was. And, I think that somewhere between how long it was that it took you to tell us what happened at the beginning of this and how long the movie actually was would probably have been better. A couple of musing thoughts as I was watching it. I'm like, I was musing that I was 2 hours in and I'm still completely confused. And that didn't get any better much. 18 minutes to go, still confused, irritated by the overly long, drawn-out final fight scene. And 10 minutes of credits. So I guess it was only 8 minutes to the end of the movie. 10 minutes. 10 minutes of credits. Really? I'm hoping that somebody will explain things, because I just didn't get a lot of it. Maybe I should have read Wikipedia and read the synopsis before I watched it. Maybe I'll watch it again. Maybe it'll make more sense. Do I want to invest another 3 hours of my life into this? Maybe. No promises. I think it was longer than it should have been. And some of the stuff just was really slow. And I don't know that there was a good reason for it. But maybe you'll tell me a good reason, Tom. So I'm going to throw it back to you, WT9Z.
Thank you, Michael, and that's why net control serves as the advantage. The net control can wait until the very end of all the check-ins and all the comments on the first round and then make their own comments. KG5BZW, Jay, near Weatherford, you saw the film. What did you think about a plot from KE5ICX?
KG5BZW, well, about the plot. Shoot, more of it. Well, let's just kind of break it down like it, I guess, how it, I don't know if I want to put it in a genre or anything, because it's trying to do a lot of stuff, and I think it was an enjoyable film. Let me say that, and then, of course, I'm going to say but. But no, I did enjoy it. However, I just can't get around it. Yeah, there's just, I think, a few too many plot elements to it, especially, I don't know, the replicant overthrow thing that never, of course, resolved itself or anything. The replicant revolution thing. I mean, there's stuff in this film that there is kind of it's a mystery that it's a mystery story. You're trying to solve the mystery. Why does Kay or Joe, whatever, have these memories and all of this? So of course there's going to be dead ends, and so it's one of those things like, well, they have to have dead ends, otherwise you just kind of see what the end's going to be, and you're going to be. I think the whole thing is, with mystery, you have to be a little bit confused, otherwise there's no tension, and so I think that's why some of the stuff, why it's just a little bit too long, why it got weird plot elements that just don't really have anything to do with it. But I mean, at the end, I was okay with it. Let me reset. Okay. So I don't know. It could have been tied up a little bit, but I think another part of it is, calling back to the original film. I felt the snow scene at the end was a callback to when you original Blade Runner lovers would know about the monologue I'm talking about, which I can't think of its name, but there's a kind of a connection there, but it's kind of tenuous, and a lot of visuals. They throw a lot of visuals at you, and it's a lot to digest. And it's kind of interesting digesting it, but still, like, I mean, I wish I was multilingual so I could see what all of the like Japanese, there's Russian, there's, I don't know what other languages, obvious several languages that there's insulated. There's several scenes like, oh, you're trying to tell us, clearly trying to tell me something, but I have no clue what. And it's like, okay, I'll just file that away for next time. So I mean, there's you can kind of like chop an onion, take a look at each layer, whatever. And in that aspect, it's kind of a fun movie. It's fun to kind of think about and analyze, but boy, is it long. I think it accomplished its goals. It was enjoyable if you knew what you were getting into. Other than that, I think I'll leave it to the next person. KG5BZW, back to net.
All right, thank you, James. Jay. Boy, I'm one line ahead of everybody. Okay. Next up is KG5PMN. That's James. He's over on Echolink. He's in Oklahoma tonight. James, did you see Blade Runner 2049, and what did you think of the plot from KE5ICX? That is, if you did see it. Go ahead.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James up here just outside of Walters, Oklahoma now. I did see about 2/3, I think, of the movie. The only bit of plot that I actually got out of it was when they were talking about shooting the missile off, and apparently they lost control of it, and I don't know, I guess it detonated, and they were trying to destroy some type of magnetic files or whatever, but that's about the only thing I got out of it. After that, I kind of got lost in it, and on the background on Blade Runner anyway, I got to a certain point, and then I just really lost interest in the movie. Back to the net, KG5PMN.
All right, James. Well, thanks for sticking it out with it. The film in total, it is a long one. KF5PDS, Miss Billy, you saw the film? Oh, wait, you saw the 1980s version. Anything here entice you at all? I'm not sure what to ask you. I put all the spoilers out there, so you'll probably say, nah, I don't need to see the movie. But if you do have comments, go ahead. KF5PDS from KE5ICX.
Thanks, Tom. Actually, I didn't listen to the synopsis, so I did the equivalent la. So I turned the radio down because I do want to watch the film. I just, with the whole situation with school and everything, I've been crazily swamped trying to deal with the current signs of the times. So I was settled down to watch the original Blade Runner so that I could watch the 2049, and then never got around to watching it. So I do plan on watching this because I love the Blade Runner genre. I just love the whole, I'm a fan of literature and dystopian films and dystopian stories. I don't know, they just hold a fascination because they always bring up such interesting topics, questions of, ethical questions, moral questions, hypothetical situations, and what would you do if you were inserted into a world like this? So it always brings up really interesting discussion. But one thing I was thinking of as y'all were talking is looking back at the original version, hearing some of the same comments about the plot, that this movie was slow, but it was in-depth, had lots of layers. It's very true of the original. So I'm glad to hear that they still carry that forward. And that Harrison Ford is in there, so that's a big, must in my book, to tie in, have some continuity. But one thing I found interesting, I enjoy watching these films as time goes by because you always find more things in the films. In fact, the original set in 2019, we just went through 2019, and there's some similarities there. We have advertisements put in our faces more, not quite on the sides of buildings the way they were in Blade Runner, but, we're getting there. But just like the big corporation influence in society, we certainly see that today. And I was also thinking about how, you know, AI has derived a great deal of influence from Blade Runner and how it's become a genre. And just looking at the anime kind of manga feel of Blade Runner, you know, you can see how all of that, you know, how that was a major, major influencer in later things. And my first anime was Akira in 1988. And you can see a heavy Blade Runner influence in that, plus like Ghost in the Shell and things. So I was just thinking of all the anime influence that Blade Runner has, anime and manga genres. And it's just very interesting to watch these films as time goes by, just to see how, you know, the similarities, and there's differences too, but we don't have beings like replicants, but, you know, we're in the forays of AI, and, you know, so it's just very interesting, the ethical questions that replicants bring up. So those are just some things that I can think of. I know it's not directly related to the movie in question, but it's Blade Runner universe, so those are some things that I find fascinating. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
Well, thank you, Billy, and if I may be so bold, I think you will enjoy the film. It has some extrapolations that take place from the original that are significant, both in style and substance, and I think you'll enjoy it. I'll refrain from my comments beyond that. Next up is W5EBB. Now, if anybody has explored this movie from end to end and top to bottom, that would be David. So, David, your analysis on the plot, please go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Well, thanks, Tom. Well, yes, this is based on one of my favorite movies, Blade Runner. I've seen every version, director's cut, the original with the talk over Harrison Ford points, and the silent version, and they're all very good, and the music, of course, is excellent. This one is an interesting plot premise to extend and expand on the original. Of course, in the original Blade Runners, replicants were hunted down, all of them. They were supposed to have been eradicated, but here we are 30 years later, and now they've been integrated into society, having apparently been adequately tamed. But unbeknownst to most, there is this invisible underground replicant army that's been formed. It's sort of a fool me once, shame on you, fool me again, fool me twice, shame on me situation, having allowed that replicant production to start up again, expecting a different result. The plot of this movie is simple on reflection after you've seen the whole movie, but as you're watching it, it's twisty, turny, milky, cloudy, and many of the pieces of the puzzle are slow to get put together about what happened to the child, who is the child, this replicant child. I could mention a plot hole here, but I know some people haven't finished the movie or want to see it, so I won't reveal that yet. But in summary, I do hope you are satisfied with our product. W5EBB.
All right, very good, David, and I think it was a good analysis as well. I'll take additional check-ins and I'll give my comments. Anybody who is late checking in, that's okay. We're talking about Blade Runner 2049. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign name, your location, let me know if you saw the film or not. Please go ahead. Okay, no latecomers, that's all right. We'll come back around on the next round and take additional check-ins. All right, some really good analysis on the film. I think David does nail it to a pretty large degree. This film has a relatively, what would be called a simple plot as far as where we get from the beginning of the film to the end of the film. This story's been done many times before. the thing about it is stylistically it is just overwhelming. It is a wonderful film, and it does a really good job of producing and creating an environment which is quite overwhelming. I mean, it even outdoes the original Blade Runner, which really created the dystopian look that has permeated every film since then, going into, you know, the new reimaged Battlestar Galactica is a very good example of that, amongst other films that have of lesser caliber but have always worked. This film extends that, saying 30 years later what's going on, and it's even more nihilistic. It's quite fascinating the way it goes about doing what it's supposed to do. So the thing is, the first film and the second film do what they're supposed to do. They're a science fiction noir. That's the whole thing. And the second film captures this as brilliantly as the first. And maybe that's one of the reasons why everybody feels a little lost or even kind of hateful at first. You think, what the hell am I watching? Well, guess what? You get to watch more of the same, only in a different, maybe a little bit different venue. Let me see if I can. Hang on. Probably a more sweeping landscape. There is a comment from Ridley Scott that, and I'm going by memory on this one, I didn't research it before the net tonight, but I remember reading this probably 3 years ago, that the opening sequence when Agent K goes down, or Detective K, whatever he is, Blade Runner K, goes down and he meets with Sapper Morton at the grub farm, at the protein farm. That scene was supposed to be the original scene that they were going to create, rather than the Tyrell scene that you get in the first film. So and I'll tell you, the Morton scene, I think it actually works far better, because there's some sympathy going on in the character, whereas the other one does not so much. But even still, either scene I think is tremendously impactful. The first film did have something to do with the overall feeling for, you know, is there, you know, who are the servants and who are the masters. The first film talks about humanity. The second film talks about the slavery and commodities and that, and of course that always takes and extrapolates into mankind itself and how they act and react in all of this. The juxtaposition where, you know, the replicants in this case are more human than human does, as I think Tyrell said in the first film. I was trying to think what else I wanted to say on this. I have a block sometimes when I think about these films, but I watched it today. I couldn't quite get through it last night, so I watched it today, and the film bears repeating. There are scenes in it, comments that are made. There's even at the very beginning of the film critical plot points that are just thrown out as throwaway lines. This film probably is tiring because you have to keep up with all of the clues. You have to keep up with all of the details, and that's tough with an extended cast for a 2.5-hour movie. So it's tough to watch. The money and received on it, the overall box office receipts were not as good as it could have been, and I think, what was it, Columbia in this case, just kind of lost out on the cost of the film. However, like any movie that is impactful, as the first Blade Runner was, this film has storytelling and a look and feel which has now been translated into films like Devs, which definitely took its inspiration. This is a television series that's out there, and Westworld is another that has taken this feel for films and storytelling and moved it forward. But I'll stop there. I probably didn't give a lot of information, so that was any real benefit. But we'll go on to characterization. So let's start at the top. Tony, NT5TM. Tony, you said you had some comments on this. You and Aaron had dissected this film. I think they dissected some of the people, but that's another story. So go ahead. Your thoughts on characterization.
Well, there's an interesting asymmetry here, which is that, or mirror image. In the first movie, Aaron found Harrison Ford's performance to be unconvincing. And I found it amusing myself because it was rather like his character in the first Blade Runner was rather like James Bond in Goldfinger. He advanced the plot very often by making mistakes or being clumsy or inept. But yet he kept the plot moving in an interesting way. It was all of the supporting characters, the replicants, the minor people who were only there for a scene, who made the first Blade Runner feel so fully realized and made the characters feel so rich. Whereas in this movie, Ryan Gosling's character is better portrayed. He does a better job than Harrison Ford did in the original. A little bit to me and very much so to Aaron. But yet, in the rest of the movie, the vast majority of the supporting characters, at least so far, we're at a minute 58 here at our house, feel like early Celine Dion. They are doing big notes and songs that they haven't earned, that they haven't led up to properly, that they haven't developed and reached in a believable journey. The other characters so often feel artificial that it's disappointing. She wants to correct me. She said she did like the dream analyzing woman who lived in the dome, and she did like the guy who analyzed the horse. She thought that was a neat little character. But by and large, most of the characters have seemed to be really kind of hollow and false, which is disappointing. The other character, I don't know if this is a character. But it's getting really late, so I will talk about this anyway. I'm tired of gritty, monochromatic movies. The color of light in a scene does not always have to be one of the characters. The gritty rain everywhere does not have to be one of the characters. You can be evil on a bright sunny day where the flowers are blooming and the strawberries are ripening and the birds are chirping, and you can order 20 million people killed because you're Joseph Stalin. The intrusive production design that, yes, I know it's an homage to the first movie, but this isn't the early 80s. It's become cliched, and I'm exhausted by it. I would have liked a movie that let the characters be characters and did not try to make the mise-en-scene of every single shot be a character of itself. That needed to stay in the background a little better. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to put down I for intolerant. But that's okay. W5GUS. Gus, if you're still there, you got anything on characterization? All right, he said he was short time, so I'm going to X him out on this one. So if you got anything negative to say about Gus's comments, you can do so safely. Next up, KF5TSK, Burl, characterization. Go ahead.
This is KF5TSK. Well, I'll start with Harrison Ford. That someone said that, would you really go to see the movie because he was in it, you know. To me, he seemed to come across dull, and Ryan Gosling, he was almost as boring. It's like, you know, looking at the two of them together, that, you know, you just wouldn't go see the movie except for the fact that it was Blade Runner. One of the other characters that I was really interested in was Sapper Martin. You know, his appearance, and you know, I always noticed his eyes, and you know, he expected perfection, but he seemed to be one of those, you know, lost characters that even though everything was put there, you know, it was for him, that everything was done, but he just seemed to be, as everyone has put it, just a minor character. I'm not sure why. K5TSA, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Burl. I've got comments on those later on, so I'm taking terrible notes, so we'll see how good I am at remembering later on. K5ANE, Kane Richardson, you said you saw the movie, and, well, I already know that. I'm losing my mind. Please go ahead with your comments on characterization.
I thought it was actually kind of interesting that for a 2-hour movie, there's not a lot to a lot of the characters that are presented. Some of the characters definitely have a decent bit of depth, such as the, oh, by the way, this statement's probably going to have lots of spoilers throughout it, so if you want to miss those, you might want to turn it down now. The VR housewife character, you know, actually had a lot of depth and complexity to her character, and you know, it was kind of weird though with Ryan Gosling. He never really seemed to show any real emotion, and it was also interesting the inverse essentially of the original movie, where you know he's going about his day and kind of somewhat realizes he might be a robot at the end, versus Ryan Gosling, where it's, you know, I'm going about my day as a robot and like, oh wait, maybe I might be a human. It's kind of an interesting you know, mirror between these two movies and this character development. Those are my main comments on characterization in this movie. This is K5ANE, back to net control.
Very good. Next up, oh, by the way, this is KE5ICX, WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, your comments on characterization. We're talking about Blade Runner 2049. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. Well, I really agree with Tony. This whole dystopian thing it was just too much slavery to it. It's like, we got to do this way and that way, and they just hit you on the head with it constantly. Look at this, look at that. And I think it kind of overshadowed the characters in many cases, like it was its own character. And so I just think it was overdone. A lot of the characters were really flat, or you didn't really understand what their motivation was. And there wasn't anybody fun in this movie at all, that's for sure. There was no jokes, there was nothing quirky. Everybody was depressed, everybody was unhappy, everybody was getting hurt. There's no joy here. I understand that, it's a dystopian movie. But I hope we don't have that to look forward to, where we're just lost. You know, there's no parties, there's no birthdays, there's no joy. there's no flowers. There was one little flower. It was a big deal. There's nothing pretty. There's no art. I just think they've just ripped the soul out of people. And I'm sure they said, well, yeah, that's what we intended to do. I didn't understand some of the things, like the scene with the prostitute and the AI combining. I didn't get all of that. I thought maybe it was just kind of gratuitous. I just didn't understand the point and purpose of it. Harrison Ford's fun to watch, I'll have to say that, and so is Ryan Gosling. Yeah, he didn't show much emotion, but he didn't either as Neil Armstrong. That's kind of his trademark. I haven't seen him in anything where he shows a wide range of emotions. He's just kind of, I don't want to say flat, but everything's subtle with him. All right, back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. Next up, WT9V, Michael. Go ahead with your comments on characterization.
I honestly don't have any, so I'm kind of gonna, if I'm gonna say anything, I'll be doing like you do and vamping at this point. The robot girlfriend was probably the most emotional person character in the movie. She seemed to care. She seemed to do all the right things. Maybe everybody needs a robot girlfriend, or not a hologram girlfriend. Yeah, that's right. Hologram girlfriends. They don't leave their clothes hanging in the bathroom, right? I think that would be a plus, right? Save me, Tom. WT9V.
Yes, the cry in the wilderness. We've heard this more than once this evening. Where is Chaz when we need him? He says the same thing. Okay, but usually he has bad puns going on there. Next is KG5BZWJ. Your comments on characterization. Go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, I'm going to echo some of the other comments. A lot of, I want to call it gratuitous posture. Hold on. Okay. Gratuitous posturing. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. I will admit, it's like the flip side of what I said last time, because there's a lot of, they do provide a lot of stuff for you to look at and digest. But at the same time, I think they are over the top, and they are trying to make the whole background scene its own character, and I don't know. In fact, I just want to acknowledge that and say, yeah, that can be kind of annoying. As far as the actual, human or human-like characters, or dogs or whatever, there's not much. You do have the scene where, I don't want to be too much of a spoiler, where basically, Kay realizes there's a good chance that he's been injected with. He actually has a real memory. Of course, you find out that memory actually was a fake, but it was. So there is subtlety there, but a lot of like Love and Kay remember the others. I'm pretty sure they're written to be flat. And these are tame replicants. How are they supposed to act? They're not going to be acting like normal humans. You can't expect them to be, these perfect specimens. Not even perfect, according to Wallace. But okay, nah. Wallace is an interesting character. Not sure how I feel about the way. I forget how that actor portrayed him. Or the name of the actor that portrayed him, because it is kind of a stereotypical, kind of evil, kind of whatever background character that kind of moves the story along. I thought Jared, I think his name's Jared. I know he is associated with some band. So I put this a decent spin on it. I think that's all I'm going to say about that. Harrison Ford was actually kind of boring in this, but I mean, as the story goes, a lot of the most interesting aspects of the story are actually things that happened in the past. So, I don't know. What else to say? I don't know. If I'm there's other things that could be said, but if I'm running out, I might as well hand it over to the next person. KG5 BTW. Back to that.
Okay, very good, Jay. I got some notes out of that I thought were worthwhile for my round. Thank you for the keys on that one, and good comments. KG5PMN, that's James up in Oklahoma tonight. Oh, wait, you said you did not see the film. Do you have any comments? I'm sorry. Geez, what do I ask you? Are you impressed with what you're hearing tonight? KG5PMN from KE5ICX.
KG5PMN, yes, I did see the movie, but like the one other operator that was on a couple people ago, I didn't get much out of the characters either. It just seemed like they were flip-flopping around too much and never really could follow anybody for any length of time. Back to the net, KG5PMN.
All right, James, I'm sorry. You did make comments earlier. I wrote you down as a no. You didn't see the movie, but you did, and my apologies. Next up is K5PDS, Miss Billy. Have we put enough spoilers out there? Are you still willing to watch the movie? And you have comments from KE5ICX.
Yeah, I'm still interested. I actually turned radio down as David recommended, so I'm trying to not hear as many spoilers as are being thrown out. And so far, I think I'm dodging them pretty well. But yeah, sometimes even if I hear a spoiler, just because I know the outcome, there's a lot to be said for the journey to getting to that outcome. So a lot of times if I hear a spoiler, it still doesn't spoil it for me because I still don't know all the nuances of what transpired to lead it to that outcome. So, yeah, by and large, I am still very interested in watching the film. I just will make comments of what I know about characterization from the original film. To me, it has a kind of film noir quality. You have Deckard, who is, the top, the private investigator kind of on the beat. It has, almost a kind of Philip Marlowe kind of characterization to it. You have your femme fatale with Rachel, and then you have your villain, with Rutger Hauer's character, with Roy Batty, and then a host of other, minor players come along and throwing red herrings or throwing you off the trail, or things like that. It's just, to me, it has a very film noir kind of, PI, private investigator feel, and that's very intriguing. It lends well in the dystopian atmosphere. So I really don't have much to say beyond that, and I think I will bow out and just be listening for the remainder, aside from the comment about music. So if you get to music, I'll chime in on music, but other than that, I'll be silent. So I guess on the next round, if it's a free-for-all, I'll make some comments about music. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy, and still good comments. In fact, I managed to pull a couple more comments that I want to make later on from your comments. At the bottom of the list, but is David, W5EBB. David, what you got to say about characterization from KE5ICX?
I think the characterization was good, and that's maybe if you can if there's an excuse for the length of the movie, it's sort of in how the details of the characters evolve and are depicted. Just in no particular order, Lieutenant Joshi Robin Wright, I thought she really nailed this role. She played it very understated, playing the overstressed, duty-bound police lieutenant. She had some great quotes. The world is built on a wall. It separates kind. Tell them there is no wall and you have a war or a slaughter. So she's got a lot of responsibility to try to keep any information from getting out, like the fact that the possibility that replicants can reproduce, that would bring the wall down most likely. And, she's also an alcoholic, kind of carrying on the Deckard tradition of just trying to self-medicate because her job is so stressful. There was a particular scene where they're looking at the contents of the bone box ossuary, and when she sees that serial number, is a great scene because you can just see her look at it and just deflate, and she knows, oh great, this is a big problem. K6-3.7, Joe. Yeah, Ryan plays this well, kind of straight-faced most of the time, even when Lieutenant Joshi kind of really should cut to the bone, cut to the heart when she says, he doesn't have a soul, and he just stares blankly back at her. So there's a lot of things that Joe can handle, except for that one scene where he explodes when his memory is recalled and analyzed. And so there is a lot of emotion there. It's just really pent up. Let me reset. Now these baseline tests are interesting, and if you look on the screen in this first one, in the tiny capital letters, you'll see it says post-traumatic baseline. So presumably after one of the police replicants has had a potentially traumatic experience, like when he killed Sapper, he comes back and passes his baseline with no flying colors. So even though that was really dramatic, he passes his baseline. But what he can't pass is when his memory is analyzed, and he has to deal with that. Now his AI companion, girlfriend, housewife, Joy, she's kind of a mixed bag. You don't know if she's really, I guess, almost loves him, or if she's just running her program, with maybe a little extra feedback based on his interactions. But you really, it's not clear, because right near the beginning she says, what a day, huh? And puts her hand on her chin. And later on in the movie, when she's that several-story high advertisement, she says the same thing with the same mannerism. So it kind of makes you think, well, she's just running a really advanced program. Now, just in general, how close to the edge are these replicants and AIs from becoming sentient or going completely berserk? Certainly, even in today, they're not strictly combinational logic, to be sure. There's feedback that might oscillate uncontrollably, or neural nets that can't converge to a solution. And so these baselines, I guess, are a way to check to be sure that, their little positronic brains, if that's what they are running properly. Now, Neander Wallace, oh boy, talk about a God complex, or maybe an anti-God complex. He wants to rule the universe, but he needs more slaves, minions to do his bidding. Human or replicant, he doesn't care, but replicants are the ones that are available to him. And he can, of course, customize and controls replicants, so he thinks. And he's alternately tender and compassionate, and the next moment violent and vicious. And since Wallace apparently saved the world from famine with his synthetic farms, as society's hero, he's given a carte blanche, no real oversight to what he may be up to, what his ultimate ambitions might be. And Love, Wallace's favorite replicant, kind of duplicates some of his psychotic, sociopathic tendencies, and or maybe she's just strangely programmed. And you see that like when she cries with apparent empathy while she's murdering Lieutenant Joshi. So the characters overall, I think, were well constructed, well conceived, and well acted. W5 EBB.
Well, David, those are marvelous comments, and thank God I wrote most of that down, because that's exactly what I was thinking. No, really, those are excellent comments, and being able to dissect this film and get down into the layers, particularly with the characterization and how it is explained, and how you explained it, I think is excellent, and it's very true. I'll go ahead and venture my comments cautiously. I thought that the film itself, let's see here, hold on. Let's see here, I gotta check my notes. One of the comments, and I'll start with this one, which I thought was interesting, is that when Deckard and Kay meet, or Joe, as he calls himself finally, when it's all said and done, when they're in Las Vegas, Kay asks, is the dog real? And Deckard says, does it matter? It's almost like an insult, really, in the end. It's a throwaway comment, but, I mean, that would be a derogatory comment about Rachel at the same time. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I think that if you listen to the conversations, this is a very talky film, it's a very moody film of sorts, and yes, the special effects do play an important part, but in the end, I think really what comes out of this thing is what the characters do and interact with. There's a subtext to everything that's going on. There's an emotional level. One of the things that we mentioned about Kay is, and David brought it up, he goes emotionally berserk when he goes through his interlink kind of Voight comp thing to see if he's baseline. He's way off baseline. It's mentioned as one of the final lines in the opening credits. He's the last of the old replicants. He is there as a Blade Runner, but he has, I believe, he's a Tyrell construct, which had no similar to Decker, doesn't have the constraints that Wallace has put upon him. Wallace Corporation comes out of the ashes of Tyrell, and all the things that went wrong with the Tyrell Corporation, and Wallace is obsessive over saying that he can take any replicant and kill them, and they gladly go. They obey. That's an important aspect to all of this, and he does this, and he does it in a physical sense with Rachel. Here you go. You're dead, and the gal who he sacrifices to demonstrate loyalty, almost a self-fulfilling cult. These are some of the things that I see that are kind of the subtext that goes along with it. There's a mention about Kay's girlfriend, Joy, I think. Oh, jeez, I can't remember all the characters' names. It's terrible. It was Joy. And that, of course, you bring in the prostitute. Well, of course, you know, you've got this virtual thing going on. She's not real, and that's kind of a substitute for, I don't know, whatever happens on the internet, whether it be romance or beyond that. It's never real, and he never gets to that point, no matter how much the program works, whatever the Wallace Corporation program does, or creates a self-awareness, whatever that may be. I wonder, the biggest wonder that I got through the whole thing is what happens when, you know, she dies, and his emotions, he takes and he tucks it back inside. There's no rage there. He doesn't have time, but you kind of wonder, how does that affect him in the end? And of course, it affects him adversely. He takes it out on oh jeez, I can't remember her name. The gal who is the protectorate of Wallace, and his main henchman, so to speak. So, my estimation of the thing is this is a straightforward story. That was something that was brought up earlier. It really is. We get there, but I think the story about the characterizations is the most important part, and that's what helps it work. That there are layers, that they're understated, and sometimes those are the best performances. People shouting and screaming are always the ones that win in Academy Awards, you know, the bombastic characters. But when the characters are not, and everything is held on the inside, and everything's emotional on the screen, that makes a big difference. And I've mentioned this before, although there are a couple of things in here with the alter ego, with love, and talking things out, and then Kay comes back and responds to further the story and give us some details that would normally be a thought project, but there's still plenty of that going on, the thoughts that are going through their heads. What are they thinking? Why are they thinking it in this weird world of what's real and what's not? And we really ask the question, does it matter? All right, it is 11:57, so I'm going to open it up. Anybody who has any comments, this can be about Billy, I'll let you go first on the music, but because you had comments about that, and any comments on anything about the film itself, anything you want to bring to the net this evening, please come with your call sign now, and I'll take you in that order.
November, Tango 5, Tango Mike.
KF5 PSK.
W5 EBB.
Oh, WT9V.
Yeah, Tom, I guess I'll go ahead and go. Is that the plan? Shall I go ahead and start?
Yeah, go ahead. I was just waiting for anybody else, but I will take another round after this. So, Billy, go ahead. KF5 PDS from KE5ICX.
Thank you so much, Tom. Yeah, one thing I will say, I look forward to hearing the music for this new film, the 2049, but my comments are mainly about the 1982 version. I adore Vangelis' scores. I know you and I, Tom, were talking about movie soundtrack scores, and I've just started recently trying to collect on vinyl as many movie soundtracks to the movies that I love, but one that I bought back when the movie came out was Chariots of Fire, Vangelis' soundtrack to Chariots of Fire. And so then when I heard Blade Runner, I was already enamored with Vangelis' music, and I'm a big fan of electronic music. And so just looking back at the list of, he used iconic instruments, you know, such as the Yamaha CS80 and the Jupiter 4, and he used the sequential circuits Prophet 10, which the Prophet 5 was widely used through the 1980s electronic music, as was the Jupiter 4, and he used Roland and Yamaha and EMU emulators, so they used like iconic instruments of the 80s in the electronic music. And if you go back and listen to 80s music, a lot of the major artists of the time used the same equipment, but they got such different sounds and different things out of them, which that's one of the main things I love about 80s music. But I adore Vangelis' score for this movie. It's just so, to me, it has an ethereal quality, but also it has a very plaintive and very bleak, kind of stark quality to it, which is very minimalist to me it offsets the complicated, just the barrage of advertisements that you're getting, but you get this beautiful, ethereal kind of starkly, it's beautifully bleak music. I just love the sound that's just such a contrast to the barrage of sights and sounds and colors and talking and people and everything, that you can kind of just float away on this music. So I look forward to watching the new movie and see if they carry through with the themes. I would hope they would, to preserve continuity. But I look forward to watching the 2049 film and see what I think about that. But I just wanted to throw in that I just love Vangelis' score to the 1982 version. So thanks for letting me jump in first, and I'll let you take the other responders there. So I'll throw it back to you. This is KF5PDS, back to net.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy. And the score, I'm going to make sure I get this one right, actually was supposed to be a collaboration between Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfisch. And it looks as though, I'm not entirely sure. I guess it is Hans Zimmer, but I think it was, all right, I'm going to correct that. I believe it's Johansson is the guy who did the actual score in all of this. He did. I'm pretty positive he is the guy, and you will remember him from doing the music for Arrival, which we all saw together as a movie and thought the score was excellent. This movie score is and falls into that category very well. I think you'll love it. Next up, NT5TM. Tony, your final comments. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. We have reached 2 hours and 24 minutes and 16 seconds. At least there's some scenes for the bright color cast as we're having some final climactic fighting. I have to say that my disappointment with the Jared Leto character is really just complete. All he seems to do is love killing. I don't understand why he was in the movie except that he loves killing. The first time we see him, he kills one of his own replicants simply because he enjoys killing, and then he kills other people during the movie. As his pet female replicant seems to have no other purpose than to love killing. Also, Aaron and I have been getting kind of annoyed and offended as the movie goes on that they keep repeating lines from earlier in the movie that we may have only heard 2 minutes previously, but they have to repeat them again for us in case we have forgotten the movie we've been watching. So, on the whole, I think I'm going to be the Grinch if we're disappointed. NT5TM.
The time is 12:05 a.m.
Okay, Tony. Well, it's okay. You can be the Grinch, the Grouch. It's all right. KF5TSK, Mr. Burrell, your final comments on the film.
This is KF5TSK. one of the things I noticed was Kay did not socialize with the other police officers, or, you know, he was just different. You know, he had to go through this random whatever chant when he came in, and it seemed like they were focusing on his eyes when he was saying the words. I'm going to reset. The only ID that they seemed to show in the film was within the eye itself. The replicants were manufactured humans, not really robots. They could eat, they could bleed, they had pain. So I don't really, you know, think of them as robots. One of the things I noticed was what they were eating was actually grubs, and when Kay turned on his machine, it's almost like it wasn't grubs anymore, it was actually shrimp. I thought that was unusual. And another thing about the replicants, they were given memories, you know, at birth, so, you know, they were sort of human. One other thing that I thought was memorable about the whole movie was Lieutenant Joshi told Kay, I'd like you to, you know, recite a you know, childhood poem or something. And he says, why should I do that if I never had a childhood? And she says, but I'm going to order you to. Those are my comments about the movie. Can't buy this, get back to that.
All right, thank you, Burl. Let me continue. W5EVB, David, go ahead. Any comments you got? Go ahead.
Well, just a couple of comments. One about the art design or art direction, whatever you would call that. The intact but eroding sculptures outside the casino was a very interesting element. You know, it's once something that had such a visual allure, now just lifeless and useless, except for the honeybees that inhabit them now. The music was mixed in. I thought a little too loud, a little too brash. It reused some of the same musical themes as the original, but 2049 definitely didn't retain the melodic, harmonious music of the original, like Memories of Green and Tears in Rain. The Vangelis 1980 soundtrack was excellent, and actually it has a lot of sound effects that are blended seamlessly with the music, and you wouldn't know it until you actually listen to the soundtrack by itself and see that they're actually one and the same. So the sound design was really part of Vangelis' responsibility, apparently. One last item, the Admiral Adama scene, he said of his former police partner, Deckard, that he was from another world. And when you think back to that line about the world is built on a wall, in the fandom, it's always been a question, was Deckard a replicant? And I think this 2049 movie pretty well said, yes, he was a replicant. And that statement that he was from another world, you could see it in his eyes. I think Edward James almost was confirming that. W5EBB.
Yeah, excellent, superb comment, and that was brought out when Ridley Scott mentioned it in the interview for this new film. He said, yeah, he was a replicant. There's a couple of scenes in there that gives it away, very subtle. The eyes was one, although, to be honest with you, one of the things that drives me nuts is, and what's interesting is you need the voice comp test to make sure that you could tell if it was a replicant or not. Wallace's people, they have a serial number right in the right eye, or their right eye, and that's how you know. You don't have to do the voice comp test, except if you're going to see if they're going to go rogue or not. WT9V. Michael, your comments. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask a question. And that question is, why do movie holograms always have static in them? Is that so that we'll know that they're holograms? Because, I mean, I don't get it. It seems like with all the other stuff, all the other technology, and all the other things, if they're going to have holograms, why are they going to have static in them? It seems gratuitous. Like, oh, look, this is a hologram. It's not real. Yeah, right. Also, I didn't like the styling of the flying cars. Now, I want flying cars. I just don't want those flying cars. Maybe the one at the end, if I had two people to pilot it. WT9V.
All right. You know what's really weird about that? When you mentioned, you said, and about those holograms, and I was thinking the static. The static in the holograms, I knew what you were going to say beforehand. Does that make me different or the same? One has to ask that question. Flying cars, yep, we should have the flying cars by now. We know that. We've seen that. We know it's to be true that we should have had the flying cars. Now, let's see. My final comments are, you watch 2.5 hours of this. There's another 23 minutes that you can watch of three short subjects that take place along the Blade Runner timeline going from 2019, actually starting at 2022 and moving forward. It's quite fascinating. It helps to create and get you to understand the characters a little bit more. There's one scene that is repeated a second time in the movie, although this one is kind of more interesting and comes at an earlier time. So, my final thoughts on this one is this. As I mentioned earlier, the first time I saw the 1980 film, I watched it, I went home, and I thought, I didn't like it. And then it started to kind of coalesce in my head. And I realized that this thing was a film noir, which I love. It's science fiction, which I love. And stories that had kind of this underpinning to it of what is reality, what is not, what is important and what is not. And as always in science fiction, it's always the aliens, the other world people that always show more humanity than the humans themselves. And that's because there's a more dramatic thing on screen when it happens. This happened again in this film, and I thought that you got to remember that the Deckard character was underplayed, I think, almost to the point of being boring. The K character was similar, and the two of them get together, and how do they react in the end? And they got to save each other because they're the last of real humanity when it's all said and done, because they have these things that come out, these emotional events. It's strange, I know, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and yet it kind of clicks, I think. I guess I'm doing a poor job of explaining that, but watch them. It's understated until it's not. It comes out. All right, any final check-ins, any final comments? I'll take them now.
K5A&E.
K5A&E. Kane, you get the final comment. Go ahead.
Overall, I think they did a really good job on the cinematography and the style that they were going for. It was very similar to the original, and yet still kind of new. I was actually really worried about how the style is going to come across, because the original is definitely its own specific kind of look and feel to it, and even just the way they compose a lot of the shots and the scenes. And they really managed to stay pretty true to the original, but, you know, now it's different kind of quality and things like that for the underlying film. In the end, what was I thinking? Let me reset. I guess I'll probably pass on the rest of this. This is K5A&E, back to net control.
All right, well, very good. I think we've pretty much gone on and on. With a 2.5-hour movie, it's easy to just keep on going and keep talking about this. I'm sure there's been several people who have written thesis papers on this film in the last 3 years. And I would recommend, if you got the time, you might want to break it up into 2 evenings, is rewatch the film. If you only saw it the first time, watch it the second time. I think there's some layered pieces to it that you'll find interesting. It's a long film. It's a magnum opus, but it's, I think, a pretty good one. All right. Let me close this out. Our next week's movie, in case you were wondering, is, it looks fantastic. I've never seen it. Cosmos, K-O-S-M-O-S. This is a science fiction mystery theater put out in, I don't know, 2016, I guess. I don't know. We'll figure it out. That's the movie for next week. The following week is Apollo 13. We were supposed to go and see it in the theaters. That's the week of Apollo 13's 50th anniversary coming up. That's in 2 weeks. I seriously doubt we'll be able to see it in the movie theater, but we'll figure out a way to watch it either together or separately in 2 weeks. But next week's movie is Cosmos, K-O-S-M-O-S. It's available on YouTube. If you'd like to be a part of the Afterglow Movie Net, hold on. The Afterglow Movie Net distribution list, send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX @yahoo.com, and let me know that you want to join the list. I will send you links and other useful information about the movie that way, or if you'd like, you can also go to the YouTube, the Facebook page, which is Afterglow and Movie. That's 2 words, Afterglow Movie, and sign up there, and I'll get you access to it. It has a list of the movies that are in the queue, so you can plan ahead if you want to see them a week or 2 or 3 in advance. I always give 3 weeks worth of movies ahead of time. Well, by Saturday night, that's 2 weeks worth of movies because it's the one we're watching. Okie dokie, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. It's 12:18. It was a long day, a long movie, and we'll catch you next time. This is KE5ICX, and I'm saying 7-3. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Tom. WD9B.
Thank you for putting up with the Grinch at T5TM.